And we are up. Familiar words, as I've somewhat coined that phrase for opening up the Our Town podcast. And I'm with Jacob Clark today. He has his own company called the Clark Holding Group.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Clark Holding and Development Company.
Okay. So a group, I don't know where I got group from.
Maybe.
I apologize.
It's all right. Yeah, it's a Clark Holding and Development Company. Yes, sir.
He and I were talking before I hit record about when I used to do like live stream sports for high school.
Yeah.
And I'd always say, I think I stole it from Brent Musburger, and I would say, you are looking live at wherever we were. And I realized after the fact that maybe one person or two people actually were probably on the air, like at the time we went live. I would always tell people, like, if you're going to do something live, you better start on the time that you advertise. You know, I would always say for a 7 o'clock game, we'll be on at 6:50. Sometimes if I had a lot of pregame, I would do earlier, but like 6:50, it's 6:50.
Sure.
We're going live. But, you know, most people, unless they were really, you know, serious fans, they probably weren't going to really start dialing until about 7.
Okay.
So I think people miss that.
Yeah.
Like kind of, you are looking live.
Right. Probably missed the intro to it.
But in any case, Jacob Clark, so I know this is probably not going to post for the next 2 or 3 weeks, but man, we just had a helicopter go down and harvest. Did you hear about this?
Well, I was running in. My little brother called me on the way here, and they said his office is out off towards 53, and told me that Black Hawk just went down. So thoughts and prayers out to if anything's going on. I don't know the news update on that right at the moment, but I did hear about it.
They're saying, and this is what's weird. Like we'll have to see how the story materializes, but no one right now is making claims that it's theirs, meaning it's not the Arsenal's. It's not no one that I guess you would think is the most likely.
Sure.
Right. Came from wherever. It's not theirs.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's really interesting.
Nobody's claiming,
you know, and so just particularly in the wake of all these, you know, crazy spy balloons and stuff with China, but it seems odd.
What are your thoughts on that spy balloon?
I think it's some sort of like diversion, testing on how we react to things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it might just be completely benign, and they're just laughing at us. It seems like that's a common particular case right on the world stage, and what do other countries really feel about the U.S. And I think that, and I only say that I've traveled a little bit overseas, and you see some of the billboards and signage that they're clearly making fun of the U.S.
Sure.
Even in countries that are our best allies, you know. So I'm not sure. I also, having come from the intelligence community, you know, it's not a good thing to always share with the general public everything you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and for the most part, we will never have the full truth. It's just the way it goes. Yeah. It's actually better that we don't know one another's trade craft or secrets and whatnot. But I am sure we have learned and will continue to learn a lot from just whenever we pick those things up as it entered our airspace, whatever monitoring we did, now that we've shot them down, whatever analysis.
Sure.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Usually whenever something I feel like usually whenever I feel like something like that's going on, you know, it's a diversion maybe to distract your attention away from maybe other things that
Bigger
are really
thing.
Yeah. So I tend to maybe look at it that way too. You know, what else is going on besides that? And that's the main topic. What else is going on? I also did hear that they were hopefully going to be releasing some names off the Epstein list. So
yeah,
that's a big cover up, I feel like, but it's a whole different rabbit hole, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tricky thing.
It is, you know.
It could be any number of things.
Absolutely.
Which, depending on who you are and the climate we are in now, like it's then going to be kind of out of control as far as what I think, you think, the next 20 people think.
Sure.
You know, like varied opinions and conspiracy theories, X, Y, and Z, and I don't know. But what is concerning, it's the same thing, like, I shouldn't say it's the same thing, but I remember when 9/11 happened. Mm-hmm. I was in my office, and we hear a plane crashes into the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
But the first report was it was like a Cessna. And then you're like, okay, well, that's, and then you kind of go back to your work.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really busy that morning.
Where were you at whenever that happened?
I was in
9/11?
Fairfax, Virginia. I was about 25 miles due west of the Pentagon.
Gotcha.
So I could see the smoke from the Pentagon. I was on the 9th floor of a building. I think we had 11 floors. And so once it became, there was the New York thing. And at some point we all realized, oh, this is a lot bigger than just a Cessna.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've all stopped working. We're watching the TV and or we're getting ready to head home.
Yes, sir.
And then when the Pentagon happened, then it was like it really hits home because I can look out the window and see the smoke.
Yeah.
And then it was like, wow.
Reality.
But for the progression for me of like, I was heads down, I was working like crazy hours at that period of time. I was working for a financial management, like software company.
Yes, sir. Okay.
And I was like on deadlines. I was stressed. I wasn't sleeping a lot.
I know that feeling all too well.
I probably got in that morning at 5:15.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I wasn't leaving until 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And I just remember just brushing it off. Like, oh, something hit the towers.
No big
whatever,
deal,
no
right.
biggie. Some wacko in New York. And then it progressed. So the balloon thing, it's like, was one balloon. Now there's two. Now there's this mysterious object here. Now we're closing the airspace over Lake Huron. Like, what's happening
Yeah.
here?
What's going on?
Right. So, yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
See what's going on with it.
Well, let me ask you this before we really dive into Clark.
Okay.
And it's cool that you're yet another native
Yes, sir.
of the Huntsville area, right? Hazel Green.
Hazel Green, Alabama.
And I want to go, I would have to go back and do my analysis. We're here at episode 53,
Okay.
and a good number have been Huntsville natives.
Okay. Yeah.
A good number.
Good.
Now, are you like into fitness?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I would say, yeah. I mean, up to the last probably 8 years, I haven't probably been as, in the gym, so to speak, as much as one would like, being a father and trying to drive a career at this point and drive a business.
Right.
But yeah, I did do a little competing. I got on stage at one point in my life. Yes, sir.
Now, what about just like I know you at some point you stopped drinking.
Yes,
and
sir.
we can talk about that later. But from like a diet standpoint, exercise is one thing. Diet, so you feel like you're in pretty good health.
Oh yes, sir, absolutely. Now, at 41, I feel like in really top shape condition, not overweight, and usually watch what I eat pretty good.
So check this out. I just came across this thing called the 75 Hard Challenge.
Okay.
It's like 75 days.
All right.
My assumption is this is targeted for men.
Okay.
But and I've heard there's other challenges out there.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's, it almost seems like every year
Okay.
some new fad type
yeah.
thing comes around. But this one really caught my attention. So I'm going to bring it up on the screen and let's look at this together. Where for 75 days, and this is just like from Pinterest, where someone, has done some of the hard work for you, but you do 2 45-minute workouts every day.
Mm-hmm.
You drink 1 gallon of water. No, you can follow any diet,
Okay.
but there's no cheat days. Like this one doesn't have all of the like requirements, but I did read somewhere else, like there's no cheat days, but just follow a diet of your choice. You read 10 pages of a nonfiction or like inspirational kind of book.
Sure.
And then you have to take a progress photo every day.
Yeah.
And then they say, if you don't do any one of those things, you start over.
Okay.
Like if you don't take that picture, you could do everything else perfectly. If you don't take the picture, you start over. But it really caught my attention.
Yeah.
And so there's those photos that people are taking of day one. They were 250 pounds, and 75 days later, they're 190 and ripped.
They got the results.
They got the results, assuming there's not doctored in any way.
Absolutely.
But have you had some success at all with certain things like this? Have you ever attempted something to really? I guess this is discipline.
Mm-hmm. I never
to
went,
another degree.
I never went that route with it. Like followed somebody's plan, if you will, workout plan. I always was pretty driven to get in the gym, and I mean, man, gosh, I remember doing 2-hour cardio sessions. It got to the point where it was 1 hour in the morning, 1 in the evening. Really, a lot of it comes down to water intake, and then what your diet look like. Everybody's body's going to be a little different. And for example, my body, certain vegetables bloat me. Like
Really?
yeah, broccoli, man, stay away from it. And white rice is really good. My body receives it real well, but brown rice I bloat off of. So when you're when you go into the competing stages what do you call it? What would you say? Amateur competing, if you will. You start to learn about your body. I mean, you're taking in when I go to cut, you're cutting water the last week before you step on stage. So I was at about 2 gallons a week out. Then you get down to a gallon, half gallon, quarter a gallon, and then the day before you're pretty much just sipping and just trying to get all the water off your body.
Wow. So you were doing like figure modeling, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it was actual bodybuilding.
Really?
Where you had the banana hammock on and everything. So yeah, man. So I did it once, and then so they have different classes, obviously, within all that. They have physique. Physique would be more swim trunks, if you will.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it was an experience. It was fun to do. I would say that. I don't really care to ever do it again, but it was something to do, and it was an experience for sure.
All right. So if you're wearing the bikini, banana hammock thing, then you're being scored on your upper thigh and that towards your groin, your legs in general. Everything. But if you're wearing the swimsuit,
that's correct.
Then it's they're scoring.
It's just more upper body. They're not really looking at your lower body too much on physique.
Okay. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And then bodybuilding, you're getting the full everything up and down.
So when did you get into that?
It was after my first marriage. Just needed something to really, man, it was that devastating, kind of went through all that. And it was really hard on me being a dad of 2.
Yeah.
Coming home to 2 beautiful young girls. And so we went through that. And
this is like your late 20s?
It was probably about early 30s.
Early 30s?
Yes, sir, early 30s. And so it was about probably 30, 31. And then I got remarried when I was about 32.
Okay.
And so about in between that is when I competed, and really was just driven to get in the gym, just more of an outlet, I think, more than anything at the time,
Manage your stress.
Yeah, it was just
decompress.
Yes, sir. It's a lot to go through during that time.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I do. You actually were fantastic with the information you sent me.
Yeah.
It was very informative. But somewhere along the way, I don't know if you called that out. I missed that in the research.
Well, I mean, there's so much. I try to give you so much within those little PDF I sent you, and I was like, I probably missed a thing or two, but I was like, well, we'll probably dive into it anyways.
Yeah. So I guess trying to think like where we should start. Why don't we start kind of in your profession first before we go into your personal side?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in particular, you've been in home building off and on for most of your career, right?
Yes, sir. So
let's walk us through, kind of post college.
Okay.
Let's walk through your career first.
Sure.
And what's brought you to where you're at now, where you've started your own company.
Yeah. So really kind of consider myself a second generation builder. My father's name was Tim Clark. It's Tim Clark, and really learned a lot from him. Once I got back from college, got married I guess it was about around 25 years old, and I was working at Kelsey Electric at the time here in Huntsville. It was right off Jordan Lane, and doing electrical motor work. I was just a grunt there, making like $8.25 an hour. Man, it wasn't nothing to brag home about for sure.
No, did you do that thinking you wanted to bone up on that trade as far as building and the importance of electrical?
No, sir. I mean, at that time it was just something to do, to get out, just have a job more than anything, and then shortly, I think I was there about a year and a half, just doing grunt, cleaning work, cleaning motors and that sort of thing. The copper spoils the spools that you have that you put in the car, the electrical motor. So I stayed there for about a year and a half, and then my dad approached me. He's like, hey man, think we want to start some houses together. I was like, yeah, I'm all on board. It's a lot better pay than I was making,
Yeah.
So definitely took advantage of that. So we started about 3 specs at the time, I think it was, in Crystal Springs. It's off Nick Davis. It's one of the neighborhoods I left out on that list I sent you. But That's where we first started, and we kind of just hit the ground running.
Now, was that his first attempt at being his own builder?
No, sir. He had built other houses throughout Madison County before, really. I went to college or whatnot. So
Yeah.
I would say probably. I mean, he's been doing it since I was a toddler. Since I was 10 years old. That I can remember,
Okay.
and being out on the job sites with him, either laying sod or sweeping houses. So back then, it was me and my brother and a fellow named we called Red. He was about 80 years old. But
Really?
yeah, he was he was my dad's cleaner. Just somebody that cleaned the houses, kept the jobs nice and neat. And he was a really nice man. I remember Red, and he would always bring his cooler, and he'd always have a a mayo and jelly sandwich.
Whoa.
Yeah, man, it was super weird with a glass of milk, and that's what he ate every day.
Really?
Yeah, he loved it. I don't know why. But yeah, he loved that.
That was just his lunch.
Yeah, that was just his lunch. So anyways, kind of started off with him just building. And then around 2008, the crash kind of hit, and my father had a lot of land sitting and kind of eat you up in interest, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
So, during that time I was building with him, then we started that. He had really introduced me to some guys, that was with Superior Bank. It's called Cadence now. And then, started doing foreclosures with them and worked out like a plus cost with them. I would finish out all their new construction foreclosures that would come in, and then they'd just pay me, to finish them out, and then they would sell them. I'd have no issue, no relation with selling the houses. And so there was some property off Mooresville Road,
Mm-hmm.
and got wind that, hey, they foreclosed on it or whatnot, and it was starter homes. That it was like that 150 range, which now starter homes are probably in the 220 to 250 range. It's hard to get anything 150. And so I started there, bought 3 foreclosures, finished them out. Did a lot of the work myself, and then had 4 lots. And man, I tried selling them myself, tried doing everything I can, to make sales, but kind of like I told you, what I wrote to you. It's hard to compete with some of these, the bigger guys in Huntsville, some of the local guys that maybe have 13 or 14 locations, multiple price points.
Now, real quick, let's go back to when you come in, when you're saying closing out a foreclosure, is that finishing the construction such that at some point it's ready to sell to someone else?
Yes,
right. So
So
it's not just leaving it 90% complete.
That's right. So it would be maybe, let's say, 60% way through. Let's just say you're at sheetrock and you're probably setting cabinets, and that builder, for whatever reason, went out, couldn't afford to make it work.
Okay.
The bank would receive that property back, and then from there I would go in and just finish the house out to where it's 100% complete, punched out, that sort of thing. And then once I was done with that, here's your keys and see you later.
Now, who was paying you? The bank?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just so I'd work out like 10 or 12%, something like that.
So then, similarly, on the next step, it sounds like you're coming in and buying from those banks 3 or 4 houses at a discount, hoping then maybe you put some other minor improvements in, get it on the market and sell it,
Yes,
and
sir.
hopefully make a profit.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. So there was 3 in a neighborhood there, and so they had probably, there was probably 60 lots right in front of me. I was like, this is a good setup. And so I took a chance on it. I think it was around 27 at the time. Took a chance on it, and gave it my best shot.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out at the time. It was tough during that time. This economy was real bad.
Right. And then ultimately, I think you'd shared that led to having to file bankruptcy.
That's correct. Filed bankruptcy by the time I was 28. That took us, anybody going through bankruptcy can relate to it. I've always heard there's, ones that either have been in bankruptcy or haven't been in it yet, So, it was really tough going through that time. Remember walking the neighborhoods, midnight, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, wondering, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But
walking the neighborhoods of the homes you were building, or just at your house?
Just at my house. At that time I had 2 kids, and just no, not certainly. I mean, this was my career. This is what I know. This is what I've been, brought up, and I've been in the industry for a little while.
Yeah.
and just didn't really have any direction. I was like, hey, this is my fallback, if you will. This is what I can go do for a job. So just a lot of uncertainty during that time.
Doubting yourself?
No, I don't think doubt. I just think it was the circumstance.
Circumstance.
Just the economy, circumstances, and something to learn from. But I definitely now I look back at it as something to learn from. Definitely,
Okay. So then, what's the next move you get? So then also then on the personal side, things are not so great at home, which in maybe a few years later, right? There's a divorce, right? So that kind of adds to your stress.
Yes, sir.
Right, and
Yes,
your emotional state. But then let's get on the other side. You get remarried, and then where's your career taking you at that point?
Yeah, so kind of started off with Jeff Benton Homes here in Huntsville as a local builder, and was there only about 3 or 4 months, and quickly transitioned to Mungo Homes. I had a friend there at the time that was at Jeff Benton that had been with them forever, and he got me on there, and then he jumped ship. So a lot of us builders do that sometimes. We'll jump ship.
Yeah.
And so from Mungo, started getting involved with LinkedIn more than anything.
Really?
And it's probably one of my favorite platforms now. I just really like it a lot. And I started looking at getting in touch with recruiters, started getting emails. The next thing you know, I have an email, and it's like, hey, we want to interview you. Will you come to Nashville? And hey, we're going to buy you. So
Buy your company.
Well, no, just by me as like salary wise.
Okay, gotcha.
Threw some good money at
Okay.
me, and I was like, well, I talked to the better half, and I was like, I think we're going to do this. I think it's the move to make, and off I go to Franklin, Tennessee. Thompson Station area with Meritage Homes, and was there probably for about a year, and during that time, man, kind of had some minor health issues. Found out that I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, just genetically, and but during that time I was just stopped off the interstate at exit 1, and remember which exit it was, and just stopped there and was like, I got to call the ambulance, call my wife. I didn't need to call the ambulance. I feel like I'm having a heart attack, and my arms just they just went numb, both of them, and I was like, I just don't, it wasn't good. I knew something wasn't good. And so I get to the ER here in Huntsville, and I believe they gave me, what is it? It's like a pill they give you whenever they're trying to lower your blood pressure. I think it's like,
oh yeah,
it's like a nitrous glycerine. Is it nitrous glycerine?
I can think of the name of the drug, but
I can't.
It's not coming to my mind.
I'm sorry if that's
it's
not
okay.
it, but
No.
They gave me something that lowered it real quick, and they're like, look, you're not having a heart attack, blah blah blah. So that was good. Got to the heart center here in Huntsville. Dr. McGraw, he's awesome. If you ever need a heart doctor, he's awesome, man. And really put me at ease about a lot of things. And he's like, Jake, we want to see young men like you in here at this age, because he was able to find out that I had the silent killer, the high blood pressure, because a lot of people die from that.
Yeah.
And then the high cholesterol too. So yeah, I'm really looking back, I'm not glad it happened, but I am glad it happened, because now I'm able to medicate some of those, issues with whatever they prescribe.
Sure. Change your diet and stuff too. Maybe we're being more sensitive to certain foods that might trigger that.
Yes, sir. So back to the kind of about the food. So kind of things that bloat me. One of the things that I found to kind of cheat calories is avocado oil.
Really?
Man, yeah. But my body receives and just digests the fats, the good fats that way. So yeah, I'll replace a lot of stuff. I'll do 2 or 3 tablespoons full of the oil, avocado oil, and it's just good fats, and my body just chews through it. So
you put that on like a salad or something? You just take it straight?
Just dump a tablespoon, and then whatever you want to. If you want to put it in your salad, put it in it. You're not really tasting.
I use the avocado oil a lot when I cook on my griddle.
Yeah.
Out in the back.
I love it, man.
It's got a high smoke point.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's why if you look up the certain oils, like, I could use a vegetable oil on a griddle, maybe olive oil. But the avocado oil gives you real good smoke point.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's more expensive or not, but I just like sometimes if I can do anything not to use vegetable oil.
Yeah.
It seems like there's
a little bit healthier
alternatives, right?
Sure.
All right. So then let's get into starting Clark,
Okay.
your own thing.
Yeah.
Clark Holding and Development,
Yes.
Construction and Development Company.
So up to about, I guess, 2021, kind of still actively working with other builders. JCF here, they're out of Thompson Station, but they did Virtuoso, was over the production there and the development going on to the next phase, and then worked with Prominence Homes a little bit. They're in the build to rent sector. And man, gosh, I was just like, why am I not doing this myself? The experience and the companies I'd been with. One of the better companies that really have dialed in their processes and procedures that I have a lot of respect for, Signature Homes. And I've learned a lot of stuff that I know from being with them. I've carried with me over this time.
Yeah.
But which led me to start Clark Holding and Development Company. Basically go and work with landowners, find a piece of land, and see the potential in it, make sure it's developable, if you will. And from there, just go and get it master planned.
So these are landowners. Let's say, for argument's sake, they own 100 acres. They're going to keep, I don't know, maybe 40 for themselves, and then kind of subdivide out the other 60. And then you're basically saying, hey, we're going to develop on 60 acres. This is what it's going to look like. Or is it lock, stock, and barrel? They're just selling it, or they want it all developed.
Yeah, I mean, just really whatever the landowner is willing to do sometimes. You can. There's just different avenues you can go with that. Will the landowner finance it? Do they want to be a part of it? A lot of time, the projects I'm working on right now, none of the landowners really want to do anything with it or anything. They want to see it all gone. But the two parcels that we're looking at, I mean, they're big pieces of tracts. One's out in Hazel Green, 518 acres.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not. It's kind of like one of those deals. Like, you either take it all, or I'm not selling it. You know what I mean? So. And then the other parcel is 687 acres out towards Athens, and that's kind of the proposed zoo property that we're talking about. Yeah,
it was funny. So there's a connection between this episode and episode 27.
Okay.
With Ethan Woodruff, right? For our viewers,
sir.
If you haven't, if you're on LinkedIn and you're connected with Jacob Clark, you're going to see a post within the last week.
Yes, sir.
About the zoo. And essentially, actually, I have it right here.
Okay.
Let's take a look at it real quick if you're okay with that.
No, let's check it out.
Actually, I think I took a screenshot of it. Yeah, there it is.
And that's actually just one page of it.
Is there multiple pages?
Well, there's a couple more pages, but to do marketing and to keep people interested throughout the weeks.
Yeah.
Post one here and post one there.
Well, yeah, and it was when I had him on. Ethan, he has this slideshow or PowerPoint deck. You may have seen it.
I have.
The 100 and something pages. And I thought to myself, oh boy, we're not going to be able to get to 100 pages in this episode.
Right. Sure.
But we picked out certain things that I thought that were just good slides. Having come from the government contracting world, I feel like I'm a PowerPoint master.
Okay.
And I've seen some good PowerPoints, and as far as conveying the message.
Sure.
And what is it you're putting on there that this really gets across right to the audience what you're trying to sell, if you will, or again what message you're trying to tell.
Sure.
But where I think if I recall, we were like the 110th largest city in the U.S. And if you look at I think it was 110 through 130. There was a slide he had where he called out those 20 cities. Most of them had zoos.
Yeah,
we don't.
I know.
And then there was that great slide that showed the map, starting at Nashville, coming down, skipping over where we're at, North Alabama, going down to Montgomery, then to Birmingham, then Montgomery, then on to Mobile, and they all have zoos. And of course, Nashville has the awesome aquarium and things like that. So that was one that really stuck out in my mind. And if you look at it was like the zoo trail. Like, okay, there's a glaring gap here on I-65.
Sure.
And it seems like all these other cities have invested in the zoo. Why not us?
Sure.
And it seemed in talking with him that most people are in favor. I thought there might be some opposition. And he's like, actually, most people want to see it. Most people are really excited about it. So, if you could, if you want to point out anything on this particular image, But to the extent that you can share the stuff that you would want to share, what's your take or your angle on the zoo as you work with nows?
So that credit goes to Ethan, by the way.
Okay.
He's the one that worked all this up. So yeah, I mean, look, I've built a relationship with Ethan over the last, I would say, 4 months. Had a couple of meetings as far as, hey, what does this look like? Just brainstorming, maybe, just about the zoo. Again, kind of back to what we were talking about. A lot of these landowners, they just want to sell their parcel. I think there's been a couple different options with that mega site out towards Athens because there's 2 different landowners out there. But within saying that, met him about 4 months ago and meeting him again tomorrow. So have a nice little lunch to really just talk about things. I think one of the biggest things that really maybe attracted him wanting to maybe talk things out was I like to think outside the box, get creative with things. I've been doing this, as far as building, real estate development, it's kind of been in my field. And just with what I'm trying to grow right now with Clark Holding and development, I thought it was perfect opportunity. Like, hey, let's go meet this guy. Let's see what type of opportunities there. What are his needs, and then come to find out it's 687 acres. And obviously they don't need all of that. They only need 300 of it, which is perfect for what I'm trying to do.
The nows only need 300?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The NALZS, yes,
Right.
sir, in the zoo. And so, I mean, which brings into play, I've talked to hometown lenders, Billy Taylor, out towards Hazel Green, and known Billy for 25 years. But the ideas come about as far as putting in a sports complex with it. I'm more into the athletics and sports, but I would love to obviously see the zoo be here as well. And then I just started brainstorming, man, as far as like, what can this look like, getting the vision behind it. Sports complex, hotels, and then, does that involve senior living, or what type of community could you put in here? Now there's a rock quarry back there. I think that is not on the property, but it's pretty close. But I was like, well, we could work around that, adjust things and place things where we need to where that's not an issue.
So in your mind's eye, what does that sports complex look like?
From my eyes, it would mimic what Birmingham, the Hoover Metro Complex is now.
Oh, the crossplex?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hoover Metro Complex. And I believe it's got 11 courts in their gymnasium. And my daughter, we just went up there this past summer for her basketball camp. So then all this is kind of happening, I'm kind of talking to Ethan, and then I'm already going to Hoover Met just because of my daughter in the basketball camp. And then, so I really got to see that facility, like with nobody there, just, in their camps. So they had baseball fields, camping, RVs already parked, it was just really cool. And so my head just started like, hey, what does this look like? Can we do sports complex or like a mimic of Hoover Met Complex along with the zoo? So I kind of started talking to Ethan, one of the ideas, like, this is what I'm thinking, Ethan, like, you only need this, so why don't we go this direction? I can go this direction with the project as well.
So is that from the experience that you've had with your kids and doing some travel sports, do you have a feel for it within the state? Are we deficient overall in the number of tournaments and such that we can host, where we don't have the right facilities? I think there's a lot of outdoor parks,
yes, sir,
and such that I hear about, right? I've only been here a year, so it's going to take a while before I'm like completely, in the know,
sure,
if you will, and tracking those things, but
sure,
I'm still kind of new. Like there's John Hunt Park or something, right? And that's going to serve as the temporary home for like the new soccer team before the new Joe Davis Stadium is built. I know there's Dublin Park and there's Palmer Park nearby, but do you feel like you're seeing this need as well? Like, okay, I've been to Mobile in tournaments, I've been to Montgomery, I've been to Birmingham. If we built this, they would come, right? Tennessee's not far away.
Yes, sir.
And so is that part of the business push too, is just to make this area more attractive for travel sports?
Yeah, I would like to think so, with all the plans for all the activities going on already here in Huntsville. I know Gunnersville has a sports complex that has been, recently been finished and built and getting a lot of great reviews. I'm just like, where are we at, Huntsville?
Now, is this this is indoor and outdoor?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm not I haven't done a lot of research on the Gunnersville one.
No, but the one you have in mind.
Oh, yes,
what
sir.
you would like to build.
Yes, sir. So pretty much like I say, you'd mimic what Hoover's got, but it would be basketball, baseball, football, not primarily going towards the football, but to where you could have sports medicine in there and some training if they needed, rehab, if you will. But yes, sir. So, I mean, more tailored towards basketball, baseball, football thing.
So lunch tomorrow and just kind of taking it step by step then, right?
Well, yeah. So things have really actually progressed over the last week, man. I actually, on the 518 acres, I actually just sent out the budget to Greystone, and they're a publicly traded firm. They're out of New York. So I like the energy. I like the direction and the path that I'm on with Greystone at the moment. And so, yeah, I mean, more tomorrow's more just catching him up. We haven't seen each other since before Christmas. I know he's been busy at the beginning of the year. I've been pretty busy too as well. So this is the first time we've been able just to get together. But I really like the trajectory, if you will, that I'm on with Greystone, and it's just more catching up. Hey, this is more where I'm at, and ideas on, hey, this is where I think we should go.
Yeah. Well, that's so. Let me ask you: do you wake up kind of excited? Has this re-energized, or does it really lift you? And just kind of thinking, even though it's a project that's big, it's huge,
Sure,
right? Bigger than anything you've done.
Yeah.
And you're still trying to get your company off the ground and other things, but like how excited are you at this prospect of bringing North Alabama, zoo, sports complex, et cetera?
It's a lot of energy, man. I'm really excited every day, every morning when I get up. Just the possibilities of bringing just communities together, the neighborhoods, this whole city together, North Alabama, and leaving something behind. Is really important to me that, not only my kids can enjoy, but everyone can enjoy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do wake up every morning. It's always a new task at the moment, hey, that we need to maybe go this direction or pivot here, pivot there. But it's a lot of exciting things. Every day is kind of new, with who you're meeting, who you're talking to. And so, yeah, it's all good stuff, all exciting things.
I think the Space and Rocket Center continues to be the number one. I'm going to say continues to be. I'm assuming it was anointed top tourist attraction.
Yeah.
In Greater Huntsville.
Yes, sir.
For last year, I would assume it's probably been in that top spot for some time.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would take long for a zoo.
I don't either.
Or the sports complex to become the new number one.
Sure. Absolutely, man.
It's done right.
I think it would be a huge attraction. Huge attraction.
And in fact, if similar to what I said to Joe Carlucci in episode 50, I told people to pause episode 50, go back, listen to him in episode 22.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend people go back and listen to episode 27 with Ethan.
Sure.
It was really informative.
I mean, look, from that episode, I already pretty much, like when I met him the first time, I go in there like, hey, this is how much money you need. This is the first phase. And he's like, well, you know too much. I'm like, you listen to it. And I was like, well, you put it on the podcast. You said it. So, I found out a lot of the information just from the questions you asked, and the story he was able to share.
Yeah, and I think it was similar to you, right? Like the way we started that episode was, hey, no one knows you. Mm-hmm. You're not a zookeeper.
No,
you didn't study zoology. Mm-mm. So let's talk about Ethan a little bit, being from Montana and growing up in the Big Sky area and on a farm. And then, he's an engineer, has this passion, so that when, to the extent that the podcast helps,
sure,
paint a little bit more of a picture of who Ethan is and what Now's is all about, then he's able to go on and talk about, we have the most species of fish in our waters east of the Mississippi than any other state, and it's like 166, I think was the number. Like what? And part of it's not just about bringing the zoo, it's the educational component too. And even right now, in the absence of a zoo, they're getting kids out on field trips and they're learning about wildlife and conservation and those types of things. So that same thing for you, right? So, okay, who's this Jacob Clark?
Right.
And he's asking for $60 million
Right.
to build this zoo. So hopefully in this interview, like, okay, well, the guys from Hazel Green, and at this point in the podcast, you know, we're getting we're getting there.
Sure.
We've told some of the story, not all the story,
Right.
but hopefully that helps a little bit for people to feel a little bit better about what you're trying to do.
Yes, sir.
We're just trying to do the right thing and give us more options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what do you, as a little bit of a departure, I know that there's so much construction going on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
There's so much, right? And I'm assuming you're kind of salivating at the prospects that lay ahead.
Sure.
Let me ask you this question, and then I'll get into these other ones. But, you know, kind of what most excites you? You're only in year one of this company.
Right. Yeah.
What's kind of most exciting to you, and what the growth that is going on and that's planned in Huntsville, in Madison, and all everywhere you go, there's dirt being, you know, trees coming down, and just today, you know, they're building that new on-ramp for Toyota Field.
Mm-hmm.
They started blasting. They're tearing trees down.
I was coming.
Yeah.
I guess east, so I saw it on the right side. Yeah, tell me about that. What are they doing there?
Well, they're going to put in, you know, right now when you go to Toyota Field, you can enter if you're coming from the west, and you come up that big hill, which is nice and convenient.
Yeah.
And you can exit going east.
Right.
But you cannot enter coming from the east.
Yeah, okay.
And you can't exit going west.
That's what it is.
So that's what they're doing. They're putting in two, you know, those on-off ramps.
Sure.
And I think it's scheduled not this year, it'll be ready next year, 2024 season, which will help tremendously with traffic patterns and, you know.
What do you think about the traffic here?
Oh, it's pretty negligible.
Yeah.
Last night, I know that there were some issues because they closed down I-565 from like, is it Triana or Triana?
Wall Triana.
Wall Triana.
But look,
okay.
I'm from Hazel Green. Lick, I don't know if you know Lick Skillet's just above there. Have you ever heard of that?
Lick Skillet?
Yeah,
No.
there is Lick Skillet right above Hazel Green. But no, I've always pronounced it Wall Triana.
So between Wall Triana and Zert, it was closed down because they were blasting.
Gotcha.
Which then means everyone's going off. And so it intensifies traffic issues when you have one less road.
Oh, yeah.
And we're very dependent on the interstate.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, if that's going to happen twice a year, that type of thing, that kind of traffic was 3 out of 5 days in a week in DC.
I got you. Okay.
Like it's that, like, you know, and that's going to make people pull their hair out.
Oh yeah.
If you're not used to it.
I'm sure.
So it's just common. And so it sucks.
Yeah.
Now, so for the most part, you know, it's not bad traffic anywhere. I've learned, just like I did in DC, you just know when to get on certain roads at certain times.
Yeah.
Like I know when schools are getting out, I'm going to avoid certain roads.
That's it.
Right. And
Learn the back roads.
That's just what you do.
Sure.
But the difference is it's not that life-changing.
Yeah.
But DC traffic is life-changing
Well,
because
sure
that's from 6 a.m. to about 6 p.m. A lot of like, don't ever do that. Don't ever go there. Don't ever go there. It's really, really frustrating.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
So, but at the same time, I can see more, you know, I can see some woes if some of these. Now, what do you know about other road improvement projects you know about?
No, sir, not that I know of.
Yeah.
That's kind of was just getting your take on, you know, moving here from Virginia. What do you think about them? I mean, I know the Harvest, you know, towards 72 side.
Yeah.
It can be challenging sometimes down through that area.
And I say that because I don't know if we're lucky or unlucky, but off county line where I live, where we are right now, that's a 4-lane road plus the center lane for merging in and out.
Sure.
And so that's not bad. It's easier to get out on a road like that. But if I just go out to Valentina's on Browns Ferry, there's soon to be a traffic circle at Burgreen and Browns Ferry, which will help because that can get backed up big time.
I'm sure it
can. On all directions feeding into that stop sign.
Yeah.
And then even down at Mooresville Road in Browns Ferry.
It gets backed up.
It gets backed up.
Yeah.
So there's too many stop signs. Then and I think on Balch and Browns Ferry, they did a great job with that roundabout.
Yeah.
I think the more roundabouts you can build,
the better.
Yes,
sir.
I think they flow really well.
Yeah.
I think people will get used to them. You might be a little bit nervous at first if you've never experienced it, but like my youngest is learning to drive, I could tell he's white knuckling it the first few times he comes
Sure.
into the roundabout.
Right.
It's really not that bad. So, but I just wasn't sure. Other than just there's so much. But so what is now let's talk about there's like 5 areas. I believe you talked about you're specializing in with Clark Holding. Talk about those 5.
Yep.
And then what do you feel is like your number one target of those 5, or where you're going to get the most business or the most traction?
Well, I think the biggest one's going to be commercial. As far as diving into the commercial sector, really trying to build a lot of relationships and meet, business owners. So that way, when we go vertical and we put those commercial spaces in, those relationships are already built. So that'd be probably one of the biggest avenues I'm really looking at, trying to establish, relationships in.
So it's the same principle. Like with if it's 600 acres, there's going to be commercial development. There might be residential development.
Yes, sir.
And then what are the other ones?
So you got commercial, what we call mixed use.
Yeah.
When you're doing this stuff called mixed use, you've got commercial, residential. Built right now, build to rent's a huge thing going on right now.
That basically just means you put in a community of, and I think there's in South Huntsville or South Desert, there's a community of, they're all smaller single family homes, but you can't buy, they're only for rent.
That's right.
Is that right?
Well, yes, sir. So, it just depends on who's really funding the project. So if you're getting funded probably by an institution, they're probably going to make that a build to rent community. Like you have no option. If you had like private money and an investor, like, well, let's just do a build to rent community, but you could probably talk to that private investor and be like, hey, I've got a deal that on 20 of these lots, let's just sell them. So there's different ways to do that. But if you're probably institutional money, you're probably going to have to do build to rent and stick to that. And the way that works is build to rent. From what I'm seeing is, they'll take down anywhere from 20 to 50 units at a time. So it's the same principle as selling just single home residents, like to residential buyers, coming in. And everything still works, closes out the same. You get the CEO, but then you hand it off to the property management company, and then they handle it from there. They'll rent it out from there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and then, so that's build to rent. And then you got mixed use.
So yeah, which
is going to be some shops, some condos, right?
Yeah, so mixed use, kind of like, we'll take the zoo property, for instance. Mixed use would be zoo here, sports complex.
Okay.
Then you would have commercial buildings, if you will, maybe a few gas stations, maybe some restaurants, that sort of thing. And, you could either do senior living, you can do built to rent or affordable housing. So there's a couple, few different avenues on how to get funded, if you will.
Now, as far as the zoning and getting permits or you have to get it zoned as such to allow all these different mixed use types of things, correct?
Not in Madison County.
Really?
I don't believe there's any zoning out in Madison County. So every municipality is going to be a little different on what the requirements are. But as far as from what I understand, right now, there's no zoning in Madison County.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because that could be a main detractor, right? Of a developer, you might have every intention. Hey, a gas station would go really well there. Now it's not zoned for that.
I can't do that.
But you're saying there's leniency there in Madison County.
In Madison County, yes, sir. From what I understand, there is. But once we get out towards Athens, that's East Limestone, which, from what I understand, there wasn't really much of an inspection department there when I was building off Mooresville Road. So that was pretty interesting. I always thought it's really beneficial to have an inspection department. Those guys are really there to, help, if you will. Not really to hinder, because they can hinder you. I've experienced that big time on a big level. But, to work hand in hand with the municipality. Like I say, if you're a good builder, ethical builder, trying to do things the right way, when you start running upwards towards 30 to 50 houses as one man, you're going to miss a few things. And that's really where that inspection department comes in handy.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And so then your goal is to really you're kind of the GC, and then you'll sub out all of the work. Yeah, essentially, right?
Yeah, especially on like a project, that size in Athens, the proposed zoo. Basically we're just the holder, looking to hold the property, and from there just contract things out, to maybe some of the bigger GCs. that really have that experience and the, really get up and go power, so that's what we'll be looking to do there.
Okay. How, talk to me about kind of going back a little bit to your current wife, your wife now,
Beth Ann.
Yeah.
Beth Ann.
What kind of, support, inspiration has she been? It's, like how valuable has she been to not only you as an individual, but to your career?
I don't think words can really.
Yeah.
Man. And she's got a spot in my heart. I think, like I told you, she's the backbone of who I am.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot in the 8 years we've been married. But man, she's been super supportive. I mean, I will say this, leaving a company where you're making over six figures to like, hey, this is where I'm at. I feel like I'm topped out. I'm definitely not happy. I mean, once you see, I guess, money and figures and what you're making other people, it's like, okay, well, what am I really worth?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And no knock to anybody else, in companies like that, but I just, I feel like within myself at some point it just clicked with me. It was like, you know what? I'm worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worth it. I'm going to take a chance on myself. I know I can do it. So let's go out here and try. Again. And I'll tell you this, probably 10 years ago, I would never have thought like I'd be trying to do something like this again, especially going through what I had been through at 28.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot of things I've learned a lot of things that I don't want to do again. I've seen things like, hey, this happened this way and it didn't turn out good. So, a lot of lessons learned, from that standpoint.
Where did you meet her?
I met her at Powerhouse Gym.
Really?
This is going to get good. You'll like this. I met her at Powerhouse Gym, and man, she came bebopping in, and she's pretty short, man. She's only like 5'3".
Uh-huh.
All right, and she comes bebopping in her scrubs and a little backpack, and so man, I don't know. I just one day, I mean, I'd seen her probably for about a month, and then so I just got the courage to go over there and talk to her. I did. I'm like, hey, I'm Jacob Clark. She's like, hey, I'm Bethany. She told me her last name. Well, I thought she said Bethany. I'm like, okay, you're Bethany. What is Beth Ann? But then she said her last name was Clark. And I'm like, what? No, it's not, But so we did a lot of research, on this sort of thing. And no relation, nothing like that.
Same spelling?
Same spelling, everything. It was wild, like this is really, really wild. And man, we went out and we just instantly clicked, personalities and everything. And, then probably about 9 months later, we're married.
That was at Powerhouse Gym was where you were working out and doing your...
Yeah. So, that was after I kind of went through... Yeah, when I went through that divorce and then started competing and then kind of... She was there when I competed. And that's also where I met Clayton, by the way.
Oh, really?
Clayton Henchman. So that's how I know Clayton. He was working out there, and so we know him, and Nate is the owner of the gym now. And I mean, that's kind of how me and him met, just kind of briefly talking here.
Is that off Slaughter?
It's off the 72, actually. It's right across from Top Golf, like, where...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think...
Mid-City.
Whole Foods used to be there. I think it closed down. I mean, I know it's not there anymore, so it's closed down. But, Whole Food was there. A lot of that, on that side where that gym is, businesses have just shut down. They've gone further up towards Cliff Farms.
Well, interesting. Next week, I'm interviewing Nadia.
Okay.
Who works for RCP.
Okay.
That's developed, or is the current developer for all of Mid-City.
Okay.
And I think she might be a Huntsville native.
Okay.
So I'll have to ask her about all of the... I plan to ask her, like, the mall was what was there, right?
Exactly.
They tore it down.
Yes, sir.
Now you got Top Golf, and you've got, was it REI, and Dave & Buster's, and the amphitheater, and
Orion.
Orion, and then the camp. I finally went to the camp because I drove by that thing, and I'm like, what is that?
I'm going to tell you, look, that used to be the place to go.
Really?
It's called Madison Square 12.
Yeah.
And there used to be a theater where Top Golf used to be, or that is there now.
Yeah.
And but that was the place to go until Parkway opened the mall.
Parkway Place.
Yeah, off the place, which I just went in there, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago because I was looking for a new button down from Joseph A. Bank.
Yeah.
They weren't in there. I was like, okay. And they were like, well, we just got bought out. Tell me about the buyout and everything. I'm like, good to know. So anyways, but I mean, even there, when I went in there, I mean, it's just people online shop, bud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People do that, and and you just don't see as many people out and about anymore. But
Yeah.
those are the places to go in Huntsville, before a lot of this stuff started popping up.
Yeah. There's a lot, like a lot of malls will sometimes you'll have that, like like a sports memorabilia shop, and you're just like, they're not going to stay in business because it's like, it's a lot of it's retro,
Yeah.
but it's almost like it's too broad of retro.
Right.
And like, it's one thing to buy like an old Kobe Bryant jersey or whatever. But you can't go like, not everybody's interested in some old pennant across the league,
Right.
or for all 32 teams.
Right.
Back then, I mean, it might be the Cowboys, like some of the or the Steelers, but
Sure.
if you're like the Houston Oilers or the
Some
San
people
Diego
don't even know.
Chargers,
Some people don't even know who the Oilers are.
and I just wonder, like, but I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
I've been to lots of different malls across America.
Yeah.
And those things kind of come and go. But there was one that really caught my eye that's off of 72 near Nukes.
Okay.
And there's like some billiards back there. And it's like a retro, I think they have like old Nintendos.
Yeah.
Or just kind of like something like a store from like the 70s or 80s that at my age, I'm like, oh, I got to go in there.
Sure.
Old toys.
Yep.
A little nostalgia. I
All the
do.
old wrestling
And they're
toys,
probably
man.
doing I would assume they're doing a ton of business online.
Sure.
Right, for the people who are collectors and such. But it's nice when a brick and mortar you can go in and like,
Oh, absolutely.
Whoa.
Have you
right?
ever been to the card shop here? Are you into baseball cards, sports cards?
I used to
that sort of-
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of resurged in that kind of since all the hype with it all came about,
Yeah.
because over the last 2 or 3 years. I think it's, I can't remember the name of the place, but it's right there off Drake, right next to Parkway Place Mall.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
okay.
Champs is the name of it.
Champs?
Yeah, Champs Sports Card. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Worth to go in, if you're kind of into that kind of stuff.
It's like, Pokemon cards.
Oh,
so
they're
like
big.
my son, and it just reminded me of,
Yeah.
somehow I would come across $1.
Mm.
And if I could just go to like what it was, a 7-Eleven or Circle K,
Yeah.
a gas station type thing, and buy a pack of cards.
So we did
And you get
that.
like 10, and you get a stick of gum.
Yeah.
And then you're just always like, I got nothing.
So we did that. So I was telling you, like, the resurgence, kind of like I kind of got back into it a little
Yeah.
bit. It was one of the really cool things to do with my son and my kids.
Yeah.
I did a few of the little shows and set up. Me and my daughter set up a booth and
Really?
just teaching her like, hey, this is how you barter, negotiate. And
Yeah.
so that I got to do that with her, and they don't live with me, my oldest too. So it was a big moment for me and her. But look, funny story. We wound up doing some trading, and Jalen had gotten all the other 4 kids, something from the show, right? Just something little to open. And so we all sat down, and Ellis gets this little box of Pokemon, it's a little tin. He's starting to open. Next thing you know, he pulls a Charizard.
Oh, really?
The big,
Yeah.
that's like the big one,
Yeah.
to pull. And so he wound up pulling it, and we sent it off to PSA, and it scored a 10. He's got it, and he still got it to this day. So, but we won't ever forget it. He pulled
Yeah.
it. That's one thing. And you got to get lucky to pull that stuff. It's really hard to kind of pull decent cards, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
There's that guy, I think he lives in Indiana,
yeah.
right? Who's like has the biggest YouTube channel for that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. Breaking Nate or something, like, what's his name? Something Breaking Nate
Okay.
is his name. And, young guy.
Yeah.
And he just sits there and opens cards, and he just flies through it.
Oh, yeah. Those are
pack after pack.
They
after
call them
pack.
breakers.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They call them breakers. And I actually follow a couple people on Instagram that when you kind of learn, if you ever dive into it, like some of these guys are getting the good boxes.
Yeah.
Okay. They're getting what I call loaded boxes. And I'll tell you, Troy, some of these guys got to where like you'll know the print run and when something's coming.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And also, like those guys will weigh the boxes. So you have to be careful with some of this stuff, Then they know all this. And I educated myself. I've watched these breaks for so long. But in saying that, I follow a couple of guys, and they do get loaded boxes, in my opinion. But if you're going to play, you might want to play with them, is what I would tell you.
So if the box weighs more, then it's a tendency that it's going to have more valuable cards in it?
So what it is, if you look on the side of the box, it'll say, on average, 1 memorabilia per box, right? Well, the other option is 1 auto in there, right? So a memorabilia card will be thicker, okay, and it'll weigh more. Well, those guys will weigh, and the one that doesn't weigh the most will tell you that's the auto box.
They take a scale to the store.
Yeah. No, I don't know whether. I mean, whatever they. Well, usually what those guys do, they'll go in and buy it all up,
Right. Gotcha.
and then once they get back home, do whatever,
yeah.
break their scales out. I guess I don't know.
Well, that makes sense now. If his name was the real Breaking Nate, it's because they're called breakers. I just learned something today.
He's a breaker, man.
I was just trying to be a supportive dad and sit down and watch when they're watching their nonsense stuff on YouTube.
Right. I know what you mean.
And that guy ended up, he's got millions of subscribers.
I'm sure he does.
Because you found that niche.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure baseball card collectors. That's what's so great is that there's a market for everything.
There is, man.
Everything.
Yeah.
Tell me about your other kids. You mentioned the two from your first marriage, or Kelsey and
I got
Jalen
from Casey, my previous wife, my ex-wife. Jalen and Presley, they live right down the road from you.
Okay.
And they go to Liberty. Jalen goes to Liberty, and then Presley's at Heritage, but she'll be going to Liberty next year. And then Jalen will got one more year at Liberty, and then she'll be going to James Clemens.
Okay.
So I know she likes it out here. I know it's a good school system, and seems like their athletic program's pretty good too. So I'm pretty excited for the girls program, And then so I have with my current, my wife now, I have Ellis. He's 6 years old, and then Everly, she's 5 years old, and then Emmett, and he's 3 years old.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so we just get wrapped up basketball, county basketball. Okay, and that was an experience. I did some coaching.
Did you?
Yeah, we had a really good. I did girls and boys. Me and my wife did, Beth, and the girls. We were just really small, it was all first years, and it's just like, hey, if we're just catching it.
At what age?
5.
5. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's just like, look, the teams we would play, they probably had 1 or 2 girls that could actually really score the ball.
So at 5 years old, how high's the rim?
We got the lower goals. We have attachments, and they'll drop them down. They're not high at all.
Like 5 feet?
Yeah, they're not high at all.
What size ball?
It's youth, but it's a youth ball. It's not even a girls' basketball, so it's a little bit smaller than a girls.
Okay.
Yeah, but wow. I mean, it was really cool. I mean, I enjoyed it. The girls, but we just weren't really competitive, which was okay. It's not it's junior pro basketball, and it's not. Man, we're not going to count, area, and it's not. We're not getting rings and all this stuff. This is more about
fundamentals.
Yeah, and just letting them have fun and seeing if they're interested in the sport, to see if they want to pursue it. But now my boys' team was pretty good. They were really good. We came up 1 point short in the final game to go to the championship. And, I had a blast coaching those little guys, though. It was very challenging. But, I mean, I thought we did pretty good.
And then the boy, this is your boy that's 7?
6, yeah.
He's 6.
Yep.
Okay. So the girls are 5. Mm-hmm. You're coaching them, and then is it co-ed?
No co-ed.
Okay.
No, sir.
Wow.
But really the same rules, kind of, if you will, for Ellis, the 6-year-old, and the boys. They play on the low goals and everything. And he said, and they did play baseball this past spring and fall. But he said he didn't want to play, and I think we're going to go the karate route. Okay. I did do a little karate in my youth too. I said, like, son, I got to yellow and green, which is not far at all, But I'm actually thinking about doing it with him. Are you? Yeah, I'm real big. I mean, I just, look, anybody can be a father. This takes a lot to be a dad, to be there for your kids, to like really want to be involved with what they do. And that's where I'm at, man. I enjoy being a father more than anything. That's the first and foremost thing that comes in my life.
My son, the one thing I love about Alabama, in the high schools here is there's 3 sports that I know of that I never experienced growing up in Virginia. Yeah. Archery. Okay. Fishing and bowling.
So you didn't get to do that, really, as a youngster? Well, see, I didn't either. Well, I mean, I didn't do it. I had the opportunity to, but I just never did it.
Archery, I did some form of it at like Cub Scout camp.
Yeah. Okay.
Bowling, we just, I went bowling with my friends.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a bowling team.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And fishing was always like a worm and bobber somewhere.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And never really got into. I mean, I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I had never fly fished or really, got into the sport of it, of like, changing out baits, usually
Yeah.
just kind of who you're with, like someone, I'm not the one that's like in charge,
Yeah.
I mean, if I take my kids, it's worm and bobber. We might
Right.
have a couple lures,
Yeah.
but something always bad happens. I spend more, as a dad, you spend more of your time just untangling lines.
I understand.
You always bring an extra pole
Yep.
because something's going to happen. And it's like, all right, here's the extra pole. Let me
Get this one
let me
undone.
do some surgery on this.
Absolutely.
And then something else happens. And then they snag the bottom. Like, and so as an adult, I don't know. It's like, it's about being for the kids,
Absolutely.
just giving them that good experience. And my one son who's sitting out here right now, playing games, he's really into it.
Well, good.
And he actually had some friends before we moved down here that one guy was like making his own bait. Like there's a Guggen baits and there's all these like bait makers that have just kind of come out of the YouTube generation.
Yeah.
These young guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a friend that's making crankbaits or whatever, and
Well, cool.
designing his own designs and selling them and doing quite well. So he really got into fishing.
Yeah. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. But so as a result, my youngest is on the archery team.
Okay.
It's a new thing.
Is that, that's not like compound bow. It's just like a straight bow, right?
It's
What do they use for that archery?
It's that thing is compound.
So compound is like what you see your hunters use, where it's got the cams on both ends. Now a straight bow is not going to have the cams, and it's just a string in the bow.
No, it's a compound.
I was thinking, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
they draws it back.
Funny story is I used to work at Gander Mountain.
Did you really?
Yeah, when I was married to my first wife. And I was in the archery gun section, and I'm going to tell you, Troy, that was probably the funnest job I ever had, because I would be getting to talk and sell guns to all these guys that are going across the country to go hunting. But then if they needed their bow fixed, I'd get to work on their bow and do their peep sight and all that good jazz. So yeah, it was fun.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm sure you've seen this a little bit with individual sports. Like if it's swimming, I guess gymnastics would fall into this. Wrestling falls into this. Track and field, where as a parent, you're going to do a lot of sitting and waiting.
Yeah.
For your kid, that's what's great about basketball and football and baseball, soccer, lacrosse. Like once the game started, it started.
Yeah.
But these other ones, you're going to wait around.
Right.
Your kid, if they're a swimmer, they're going to, if let's say it's a 50-meter sprint, then they do the 50-meter sprint and then they'll swim for another 6 hours.
Right.
And it's kind of like sometimes not the best thing for a parent.
Right.
But with archery though, I went down to Gunnersville to watch them compete. And it was interesting. It was kind of like one of those multi-use gyms.
Okay.
They had like 3 basketball courts in there.
Mm-hmm.
And but then they also use it for archery.
Yeah.
But it was really well done. It's very organized. They have these flight times, and I think what they do is they'll bring in like, let's say 75 high schools over the course of 3 days.
Yeah. Okay.
And they get flight times.
Yeah.
And so for James Clemens, our flight time was like at 2:00 on a Friday.
Yeah.
And they always have like a round, like a practice round, and then they go into 2 scoring rounds and they're done.
Okay.
And it's maybe an hour and 20 minutes tops.
That's not bad. Not bad
As
at all.
opposed to my son who wrestles, and it's you show up and sometimes you don't even know what mat they're going to be on, when they're going to be on. They're dependent on Wi-Fi, and you're supposed to access this website that helps you understand to follow the just the flow of the tournament.
Yeah.
The bracket and then the mat assignments, and sometimes it's down and you're just scrambling. And there's been times where I thought I had time. I go to like a local, I go get something to eat.
Yeah.
I go put gas in the car, and then I almost miss his match because
I know the feeling.
it's just stuff like that. You're like, what is going on? It leads, the more time you have, the more error will take place.
Yep.
But anyway, you going to coach in the spring in baseball or
no? Well, I mean, he don't want to do the baseball, so we're probably not going that route. I mean, if he's going to do the karate, probably going to maybe join him for a little while, see how that goes, see if he wants to stick that out. I mean, he's real big into he likes to just throw punches, at home. So I'm just, this is something he's wanting to do, and so I think Dad's going to join him with it. But now basketball, if you just really whatever they want to do, I mean, especially with Jalen, the oldest, and they've done really well. She's diehard basketball. I mean, kind of like I was about it when I was in high school, but she's all in. But I'm not a parent that's going to push like if it's not something I really feel like they want to do. Like I'm all about like Presley, my second oldest, really good drawer. You know, she can artwork, you know, that sort of thing. And now we did get her signed up for volleyball, and she's very athletic, but she's never had any interest in doing anything. So we just haven't, you know, like pushed her to do it whatsoever. So it's more whatever the kids want to do. You know, I'm more on board for whatever they decide. You know,
Yeah.
So
there's nothing worse than seeing that parent that's kind of living vicariously through their kids and
not doing that.
You know, wants them to perform at whatever level they didn't.
Yeah.
And it's ugly.
Yeah, it's not what I'm about. So
yeah. So let's now talk about your immediate family, like your growing up. You had mentioned growing up in Hazel Green.
Yes, sir. Hazel Green,
kind
Alabama,
of in a rural area.
Yeah.
Just good times. You had your brother and your cousins.
Yeah. So growing up off Bob Wade Lane, and there's the blue house is still there. My granddad lived in it. And to the east, if you're facing that house, will be a probably 1,500 square foot house, and then above it was about another 1,500 square foot house. So the first house, me and my dad, our family lived there. Me, my dad, and my brother at the time, and then my uncle lived up, above there with my cousins, whatnot, Will, and so we had a pretty strong family dynamic, if you will. We were always going to granddad's house. We had horses, dune buggies.
Really?
No thing to cut the dune buggy on and just going up, So we lived there for, probably, I guess, maybe to about 7 or 8. And we did jump around. We've lived out here off county line a couple times. And because Dad was always building, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Building houses. So
you kind of build a spec, live in it.
Yes, sir. So that's kind of what we did. We jumped around probably for 2 or 3 years. And then we kind of landed in a spot right off 231, 431 off the main highway there going into Meridianville and Hazel Green. And it's right across from Meridianville Barbecue Pit. It's what was called the Lions Club at the time. I don't think they play really do too much there anymore, but all the baseball fields were there, and that's where really the athletics started for me. Baseball was right next to the house. Remember going over to that field, and I was a quarterback and wide receiver, man. I was throwing myself passes and just diving out like Joe Montana, throwing to Jerry Rice. But yeah, so it really started off, with athletics. And that's where I met a lot of people within Hazel Green community. A lot of childhood friends, and a lot of those childhood friends now actually work here in Huntsville. Huntsville Design, Adam Johnson, Matt Davis. I forget what bank he's with, but he's like senior vice president. A lot of cool things. And me and Matt roomed together at Lipscomb. But that's how I really know a lot of the people out towards in Madison County in that Hazel Green area. But I went to Madison Academy, and I went to Hazel Green for about half a semester, and it just really wasn't for me. I mean, that's where my older brother went, and but I stuck it out with Madison Academy, so that's where we went, and really cool story there.
Was that for sports mostly, to pursue just your interest and a different level of competition?
I would say partially that, but partially probably academic wise too. I got more attention from teachers, and I probably needed it, as far as paying attention and that sort of thing. So they give you a little more, or during that time at least, had a little more attention from the teachers, that was given to me.
Okay. Let's talk about your brother.
Yeah.
I know that he passed away October 7th, 2000.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yep.
Can you share the circumstance of that? He was 2 years older than you?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, so he was 3 years older than me, and just being him really for a good part. I have a younger half brother and half sister, really like brother and sister,
Yeah.
Colby and Jackie, and so yeah, he passed away. Was in a car wreck, and yeah, just blind, just out of the blue, just freak accident. And I just remember the state trooper knocking on the door, and I was at the time we were living what's called Jacob's Landing, a neighborhood my father developed out in the Hazel Green area. And behind the house, there was a detached garage, but electronic wise, everything was hooked up, so I could hear like through the intercom system if the doorbell rang or whatever, right? And I just remember it was probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock, about 9:30, I think it was, and the doorbell rang. I was like, that's kind of odd. Nobody's usually ringing our doorbell that late at night. And walked over, and I just see my dad at the front door, and I see a state trooper. So obviously I know it's not good. And he then obviously proceeded to tell me, that Wes passed away, was no longer with us. And man, I just remember going straight to the phone, like I need to tell my mom, and she needs to know about it. And as soon as she picked up, man, it was like I just lost, I broke down, and handed the phone to my father, and he proceeded to tell her. And so yeah, it was a big gut shot check, man.
Yeah.
Gut shot to the stomach. Don't really expect anything like that ever happening to you, but it did.
And you guys were pretty close.
Yeah, we grew up, man. Playing together. So back to kind of to the house that was off that highway. Me and Wes, the way we grew up, we just had a lot of freedom. That there was a field back behind that house that we always camped at, and it was a couple football fields away, but we had four-wheelers at 12, 13 years old, and Dad's in the house. He knew we were good, and Wes was obviously 3 years older than I was, but he would always have his buddies over, and I'm always trying to hang out with those guys. And yeah, we were real close, pretty close.
And when he passed, he was at college age?
Yes, sir. I have to believe Wes was 21.
Okay, and you were finishing up high school.
Yeah, I was I just graduated.
Just graduated.
Yeah,
okay.
I just graduated. I think I was 18 at the time.
That's right. And you were at that school, Faulkner?
Yeah, there's Faulkner University here.
Okay.
I don't even know if it's still here, but I would imagine it is. But it's not the one in Montgomery, the big, the bigger one. But Faulkner University here, and that's where I was attending at the time.
So, talk to me about the effect. So then later you decide you're going to transfer and you go up to Lipscomb, and that's like southwest of Nashville, right? Nashville area. Was that? Do you think just trying to get away? You wanted some time to process and grieve, like be close enough to family but away from the family?
Yeah, during that time, it's more just a conversation really with. I think Dad was probably, looking, maybe he needs to go off. I don't really know kind of where his thoughts. I know we discussed it quite a bit. And, I really enjoyed my time up in Nashville at Lipscomb. It was a really good school. But, more than anything, I think it was just trying to figure out what's the best thing for me to do. Like I said, during that time, I was running kind of like a little lawn care business I'd started up, and I was doing fairly well with it. But at the same time, man, looking back on it, probably a little lost. You know what I mean? And I just didn't know what to do at the time. I just lost my brother, and I did have this grass company. But during that time, if you didn't have a degree, you're not,
right.
if you needed a degree to get a really good job. And now I don't really feel like you probably need that much. As long as you got some experience within a field, the degree always helps. It's not a bad thing to have, but experience, it's hard to beat a good experience. Yeah,
I'm just kind of comparing and contrasting the decision to go there, hey, I want to go to Lipscomb. Did you have family in Nashville?
Yeah, so Josh, there was Josh and Will were my cousins. Josh Patrick, and then Will Clark. Josh he's passed away about 3 years ago, and from stage 4 colon cancer, I believe it was. Oh boy. Yeah, it didn't take very long. I think once he got diagnosed with it, he was able to battle it for about 3 years, and then took over. So yeah, but he was already at Lipscomb, so that was kind of some of that played into that. Yeah. I had my cousin up there, but he was kind of on the way out as well. But when I got there, he's like, "Hey man, why don't you think about pledging?" I'm like, "Well, okay." So I kind of went that route. I did do the pledge. Sigma Iota Delta was what I pledged. And before that, right when you get up there, you're there probably for, going to school for probably about a month and a half, 2 months, really before initiation and all that starts. And so I made a lot of friends. He knew everybody. I'm getting introduced to a lot of people. And so you befriend a lot of these people that were already in the fraternity. And I won't ever forget crawling around in mud at 30-degree weather. Say the motto. So you better know it frontwards and backwards. And if not, you're probably going to stay out there for another 30 minutes freezing. It just,
Yeah.
But, I'm halfway through it. I'm ready to quit. This isn't for me. But, I think I came back. I know I came back home. It was my mom's birthday. She's a Halloween baby. And so it was during the time of Halloween. I was like, look, I'm going to see my mom. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was going on the way back up there. During that time, I was just like, man, why am I doing this? Like, ready to quit. Don't want to do it. Stuck it out, though. Finished the next week. Got in. But, it wasn't for me, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I think everything that I went through during all that, I mean, it's character building, and it's a lot of unity within the Pledge brothers, if you will, and really relying on each other. To get through that stuff. I mean, I can remember not sleeping for 2 days straight, and I had to write a paper. I think he wanted an 8-page paper on Unity.
Oh gosh.
An 8-point font.
Oh wow.
Yeah, have fun.
Double spaced or single spaced?
I can't remember, but have fun with that, right? I mean, it's just
8
like,
point.
yeah, I'm just like, this is not happening. So, it just didn't. It wasn't for me, man.
Okay.
I kind of didn't really have. I mean, I still had friendships and stuff like that with, once it was over, but I didn't really pursue those and hang out with those guys. And shortly thereafter, probably, I guess I was there for about another year, and then I decided to come back home.
Right. Yeah. I guess you had referenced that your dad didn't raise a quitter.
Yeah, he didn't.
But did you have some discussions with him, and he was like, look, you're not quitting until you're going to stick it out.
Yes, sir. It was more, you started this.
Yeah.
You need to finish it. Yeah, it was so. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's definitely instilled. If you notice, I'm saying yes sir a lot. So I'm definitely been raised on manners and show people show people respect where respect's needed.
Yeah, sure. It's a good thing. That's one great endearing quality of the South.
Sure.
A couple things are. One is that people are more. They'll share their religion or the fact that they go to church. They actually go to church. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of churches around, and a lot of times people just, hey, go to any church, right? Because it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And then the other is just manners, And Southerners generally have a much better with that, just as something natural or something that their parents instilled in them.
Sure.
Right.
Just something small, holding the door.
Yeah.
For somebody coming in and out of the convenience store.
Yeah.
None of us are above that, I feel like.
I used to. When I used to run this program for my company up in Virginia, I would buy lunch, and I would send out an email, like kind of when it arrived. There's like 200 people were feeding, and I'd be like, "Here's my rules, and I really don't care if you, basically my rule was women and children first. Now there's no children, so I said if I see any guy getting something before a woman, or if a woman comes late and stands in line, she should be ushered to the front.
Right. That's kind of like a given.
Said, those are my rules.
Yeah, no doubt.
And there are people who are, like, oh, that's chivalry's dead, or we don't need to do that. Like, it's my rules.
That's it.
Right. I'm in charge. I bought the food.
Yep.
You will and then some guys had a hard time with it. Some women had a hard time with it. Like, sorry, this is what we're doing.
Yep.
I'm going to force you to be polite. Have manners under the way. My code.
Yeah.
But
look, that stuff goes a long way. I mean, if you're doing something small, just think of, you never know what type of day somebody's having. Just a thank you,
That's
or
right.
a door open for somebody, or you helping somebody pick something up that they dropped. Like, you just never know what, people, everybody's life's different. Their circumstances are different. What they're dealing with is different. And more times than not, whenever I look and I see, I think I'm having trouble, it's more like, look around you, be thankful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think at the end of the day, two things that any employee or any human being would like to hear on a daily basis is a thank you when it's warranted.
Absolutely.
And a good job.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
Yeah.
And that does wonders.
I agree totally.
I've worked what I thought was a really good day. Especially when I think back to the experience I was talking about earlier during 9/11, that company, I rarely got a good, like, hey, good job today.
Yeah.
And I needed it because I wasn't sure. Like, I'm still employed, but this is a grind, and I feel like I'm getting paid, but I need a little bit more than that.
Yeah, that good job, or hey, I'm proud of you. Those statements, it almost just reignites you and resets you a little bit. I mean, it did me. Whenever I hear stuff like that.
I tell you what, I think we're at a point where I want to bring up these pictures.
Let's do it.
That you sent me. And the cool thing is, I didn't. I don't have enough context,
Okay.
so you're gonna have to explain them, which is
perfect.
the whole point.
Yeah, that's all good.
Sometimes I will have done the research and I'll come across a picture and I'll make my own assumption about it.
Yeah.
But
There they are.
so tell me about what's going on here. That's Madison Academy on the top, and who's on the bottom left, or the
Okay.
bottom of the picture.
So a little bit of background here. I obviously went to Madison Academy, but Madison Academy off Max Luther was totally different than Madison Academy Slaughter Road.
Okay.
But in saying that, this shot right here, this is my senior year, I believe it was, and it was after something, we decided to roll the school. And front entrance, everything where the power lines are, we just went out there and rolled it. We thought we were really cool for doing it, and it's something we did. I mean, Madison Academy is a really good school.
Yeah.
I mean, it was when I was there.
Sure.
And there wasn't a lot of mischief and things to get into, if you will. So, like, if we would have got caught for doing that, it wouldn't have been like a really bad, in trouble, but it was bad for us,
Yeah.
if you will.
And you're on the left there.
I'm on the right.
That's you on the right?
That's me on the right, and that's Leader Vigneson.
Okay. He's one of the guys came to
Yep.
play basketball with his brother.
No, they're not brothers. No relation to Cy. So his name's Syvar Sigurmundsson.
Okay.
Yeah. So what it is, from what they've told me years ago, is that whenever they have a child, the child will take the father's first name and add son to it.
Okay.
So that's kind of why you always hear Icelandic.
Yeah.
It's son on the end.
Right.
So, but that's Leader. He's about 6. He's a little taller than I am. He's about 6'1", 6'2"-ish. But shoot lights out, brother.
Really?
Lights out. Yeah. I mean, volleyball lights out. Volleyball on.
All right. So now you're on the far right of this shot, right?
Yep. Far right. So we'll go to the left. That's David Rosenblum. That's Caray Rosenblum's son from Rosenblum Realty.
Okay.
And then that's Syvar Sigurmundsson. We went Cy and Lee, so we'll just say that. So I'm going to keep saying it. Right? It's going to be a mouthful. So he's about 6'6", and he was a stud, man. And he played at UAH and did real well there. And then Adam Bass on the far left. And Adam, he was good at basketball, not only basketball, he's really good at baseball.
Really?
I think I don't know how far he went in his career with baseball as far as in the majors or whatnot, but he did pursue that and did some things with it.
It is just amazing to me. It never ceases to amaze me how difficult it is to get to the professional level.
Yeah.
When you think about all the kids you played with,
Mm-hmm.
none of them, right, were like an NFL star or
yeah.
a major league star
Yeah.
or an NBA star.
And
Same thing for me.
I've seen some studs. I mean, especially around just Huntsville. And
Have you? But
Yeah.
they haven't.
None of them.
Yeah.
I think during the time that we were playing here, Grissom was really, really good. And they had Cedric Patton, and he went to Alabama. Now, I don't think he played in the pros, but now he was a stud. He was really, really good.
You know what's interesting? Before you and I hit record, you were asking me a little bit about how I started.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it when Tori interviewed me in episode 11, a little about my live streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this guy, Jonathan Allen. He plays for the Washington Commanders.
Okay.
Went to Alabama.
Yeah.
He was a linebacker. And he went to a high school in the same county where my kids were going when I was doing these games.
Okay.
And one of the first basketball games I ever did, and actually might have been the first, was against that school, Stonebridge High School. And he was on the team, and he was scheduled. We thought he was going to come out. And so my whole storyline, I was so excited that we all felt like this was going to be the guy
Right.
that was going to make it to the NFL, because he was already signed and committed to go to Alabama, which is like
Right.
big. That's big time, right?
Yeah.
Most people are signing to go to Division III, maybe Division II.
Yeah.
No one's going like Division I, let alone in Alabama.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't show up, doesn't even play.
Wow. Wow.
Because I interviewed a few players before the game, and I'm like, hey, how excited? I was like, I want you guys to really think about this. You're about to play basketball against this guy. Now he's going to play football,
Yeah.
but just think you're going to get to be on the court with Jonathan Allen. And he didn't even play.
Man.
I think it was too soon after football.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't like, he wasn't really fully into the basketball mode yet.
Gotcha.
But I was kind of like, I missed my chance, because now he's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Not that that means much in the NFL. Pro Bowl is a joke.
Yeah.
But, he's turned out to be a good pro.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one.
What we got next? That's just me there. So I don't know what episode I forget what episode you interviewed him on, but that's Sheepdog right there.
Oh, it's Fowler?
25.
Fowler, that was in episode 7.
Okay. Yeah,
That's a long time ago.
That's Jonathan Fowler.
Really?
And yeah, he's a good.
You call him Sheepdog?
We all did back then. And we had a friend pass away, Andrew Reed. His name was Andrew Reeder. It's been probably 9 or 10 years ago, but think a lot of Jonathan. He's a great guy. But yeah, he was on the team, played with him, and that's Cy there on the other side, 51. I don't know who that is in the far back.
Are you shooting?
Yeah, I'm shooting.
24?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was me.
That was a Kobe jersey.
I had some highlights too going back then too, man. I had to do. I don't know what I was thinking, but
That's awesome, man. Did you make it? Do you think?
Look, we were pretty good. I think I made that one. Those jerseys, the other team's jersey, I was wanting to say that might be Bob Jones.
That looks like Bob
I'm
Jones.
thinking it's Bob Jones.
Okay.
But now look, during that time, you understand, like, we're 1A, and I mean, especially before they came here, we were 1A, and for us to play Bob Jones or Butler, yeah, I mean, it's unheard of. You're not getting on that. We're not getting scheduled for that. We get slaughtered. But we scheduled, and we wound up winning both against Bob Jones, and then we fell a little short against Sparkman. I think we were winning pretty much the whole game, and they wound up pressing us, I think, very late, and we just lost the game. Man.
Yeah.
Played at our home court.
They didn't beat you. You lost the game.
Yeah, I felt like we just really lost that game more than anything.
Was Fowler a good player?
Yeah. Look, I mean, anybody that was on that team, all those guys.
They were good players.
Yeah, I mean, if any of them really got going and just shooting the ball, yeah, you better watch out.
I was gonna wear. I actually have a Fow Wow T-shirt underneath.
Do you
here.
really?
I have a lot of them.
Shout out Fow Wow.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, man.
All right, what do we got here?
That's just the pledging days, Of course, we had. You'll laugh at this. So they give you nicknames. That's just my pledging pictures. You had to carry your book. That book had the motto in it. You better have that book with you at all times.
And where are you in the top shot and the bottom shot?
No telling. Somebody's dungeon, man. And it's like, well, what I'll tell you, like, it's really cool because some of the places you would go for, like, your formals and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there was one, I was just telling my father about this, but for one of the formals, one of the daughter of the gentleman, the guy that developed Cool Springs Mall, his daughter went there.
Okay.
So we were able to go. So they had the formal at their property, and it was like an estate. It was just super nice. But it was a lot of fun times. But you'll laugh at this. So they give you nicknames, like when you're pledging. Well, mine was Lou, for Lou Frigno.
Okay.
I mean, they'd be.
Oh, because you were.
I was pretty big.
You're pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, it might not look like it there. I was probably maybe no more than 200 pounds. The biggest I've ever gotten when I did the competing was about 210, 215. But they would. I mean, so if they call your name, your nickname, you got to do whatever little skit they've come up for you. Well, they would holler Lou, and my thing was, have you ever seen Pumping Iron?
Yes. That's a Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to beat him, Dad. so they would be like, Lou. And now all of a sudden you'd hear me, that's not good enough, Dad. I want to beat him.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm talking, we're in this square at Lipscomb University in front of, 3,000 students. And it's just like everybody's just laughing at you. They're just humiliating you. It was a lot. That didn't bother me. That part didn't bother me, I mean, it just... Some of the things like getting up in your face, almost like during the pledging, where almost like you're about to fight. It's like, man, I thought we were friends, But it's all good. I don't have no hard feelings to anybody.
So what's this shot?
That's my father. That's Tim Clark and me. That's I think that's probably my junior year because my senior year I had a white coat and a silver vest. But that's my dad, and I'm pretty sure that's in Jacob's Landing at that house.
And you're heading off to prom or something?
Yeah, so we had senior night. Prom, we didn't have, prom, it's a little more formal, if you will, being a Christian school or whatnot.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, talking about my, two cousins. So there's always Josh. Josh is on the bottom right, and then Will's to my left there.
And Josh passed away?
Yeah, Josh is Josh is the one that passed away, and then Will's on the left. And I'm wanting to say Will's in Texas right now, and I believe from what I saw on LinkedIn, I haven't talked to him in probably 4 or 5 years,
Hmm.
but he has his own tech company, so I
Okay.
need to catch up with him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now here's something really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There were two things you shared with me.
Yeah.
One is that you got to see
Yeah.
the World Series,
Yes, sir.
Braves,
Mm.
and then the other one was seeing Game 6, Bulls versus the Pacers.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
But and it's really cool that you kept the tickets
So
and you framed them.
yes, sir. So like kind of going back a little bit to the sports card stuff, I want to get those signed by Chipper and then reframe them. That's kind of what I'd like to do with them because he goes to a lot of these events to where he'll do autograph signings and it's only like $150 maybe. It might not even be that anymore. But I want, I'll probably do that at some point. I actually bought 2 of his jerseys that have like the World Series logo on it just to get him to sign it. I was a big Chipper fan.
Where does he live?
Oh, man, gosh, I don't know. Probably, I don't know.
I can't remember where he's from.
100% on that. But
What
he's big into hunting. And so, and I am too. I'm a big deer hunter, or used to be. I still would do it if I, had more time. But, yeah, we were 6 rows up. Funny thing about that is you're gonna laugh is I had a Cleveland hat on.
Did you really?
Kenny Lofton, baby. You know what I mean? I was rooting for the
So
Indians.
okay?
Yeah, I mean, but I was young, dude. I was probably this is before. Yeah, I was probably 5th or 6th grade.
You were trying to spite someone that was a Braves fan.
Yeah, Dad was rooting for him. Dad had a full-size van to where where it had a cassette tape in it, TV.
Oh yeah, the conversion vans.
Yes, he had one of those, and he loves them.
With a ladder on the back.
Yes, he still loves them to this day. I promise. He still loves them. I want to get another one. But anyways, I remember riding in that van. I was just watching videos the whole time, and he took me to it. But yeah, I mean, I was rooting for actually the Cleveland Indians, for that. But looking back on it, it's like glad they won it.
That's it's so thinking back to the Skip Caray.
Yeah.
He was your play-by-play guy for the Braves, right?
Yeah.
Until he passed. And now his son, Chip, was, and now he's going to the Cardinals.
Oh, yeah?
So Josh is the play-by-play for the Pandas, right?
Yeah.
Does all the games. So his brother Chip, they I guess it's happening now.
Yeah.
He's on his way to St. Louis.
Gotcha.
But that's where Harry Caray had started his career.
Okay.
So
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I reached out to Josh and I'm like, is there any chance the Braves are considering you?
Sure.
And he's like, no.
Not at all.
It's a tough business.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And I'm sure he would do really well, and it'd be awesome if they kept that in the family.
Yeah.
To now be the 3rd Caray, right? To be the play-by-play for the Braves.
Yeah.
But I don't know, unless he's just keeping it quiet.
Right.
Season's what, 2 months away.
Yeah.
But I would refer you to that interview if you hadn't watched the Josh Caray one yet.
I'll check it out.
It's really good.
Okay.
Josh is just an outstanding guy.
What's Josh's last name?
Caray.
Caray.
Yeah.
Okay.
Caray.
Okay.
Yeah, good dude. That's a tough job because he has to go on the road. It's one thing to do every night, except for Mondays, the only day they have off.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're here for home, Tuesday through Sunday, right? He does
Yeah.
every game by himself. No color commentator.
Yeah.
Then he goes on the road with them to Pensacola,
Yeah.
Birmingham, or wherever they're playing up in Tennessee, and do the same thing. It's a grind.
I'm sure it is.
Big time grind. All right, well, there's your family. Let's switch back over. Tell me about this shot.
No, that's my squad right there. We got a whole crew.
All 3 of them.
We've got a whole
all 4 or 5 of them.
Basketball team there. Yeah, so Jalen's in the top left and Presley's on the top right, and then you've got Ellis on the bottom left, and then Everly and Emmett is the bottom right.
Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
I was thinking about this. I have 4 of my own.
Yeah.
Right. One about to get married. So I have 2 that are.
You're ahead of me, bud.
Well, 3 of them. Yeah. My one son's about to turn 18.
Yeah.
So 3 that are about 18 or over, and then one that's going to be 16. When people find out, you say, I have 5 kids. How do they react?
They give you the look, like, man, how do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm just That's what I get. I get a look like, yeah, 5. I actually just ran into Jack Moore. He's a sports med here in Athens, Madison, whatever.
Yeah.
And he asked me, he's like, man, how many you got now? I was like, I got 5. And it's like, no more after that, but I got 5. And I just, get the look of amazement or like, man, I mean, because most people that react that way, they already have kids. So they know the trials and tribulations you go through as a parent, raising kids.
I mentioned that because, and maybe Northern Virginia, DC is different.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of, there's a lot of 2-income families.
Yeah.
Right. I get it. But there was not a tolerance for a lack of tolerance for people that had like more than 2 kids.
Yeah.
And you would lose friends. So we moved into a place where we had 2 kids at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was pregnant with the 3rd.
Okay.
But it wasn't like she was showing yet.
Yeah.
And we moved into this neighborhood. We had just built, it was our first home that we built.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're excited about life. It's our first single family home.
Yeah.
So we moved from a townhouse. And we start meeting the neighbors. My oldest was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And you start meeting all the other 5 and 6-year-olds for him and the 3 and 4-year-olds for my daughter. And everything's great.
Yep.
And my wife would walk them to the bus stop because he was in kindergarten, 1st grade, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're friends. And we get invited over for, the cookouts until they find out that she's pregnant with our 3rd.
Things start changing a little.
Those friendships ended right there.
Sure.
She goes to the bus stop. They're not talking to her anymore. They're like, you normally.
It's like you're an outcast.
Yeah. You, let's say you're driving to your house, and where we lived, we would drive and then take a left, and, and we would pass a lot of those families on our way to our house. So, you wave. There was no more waving.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting.
Because we were going to have a 3rd kid.
That's interesting.
And then when we had a 4th kid, we might as well have moved to another country. We were no longer welcome.
I always say this, and you might probably can relate to this, having this many kids, having 5, and you having 4, it's not like you still look to do stuff with other folks, but it's hard to do things with other folks because you just got so much going on.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just, you want to go and do activities, but those activities, that bucket shrinks a little bit of the activities you can do because mine range from 14 to 3. It's like, well, the 14 is going to get bored if we go do 3-year-old stuff. If we go do 5-year-old stuff, you see what I'm saying? So I'm sure you can relate to it.
My buddy, I had a buddy who had 5 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids and his kids were all friends. And they were almost all the same ages.
Yeah.
And the same genders all the way down.
Yeah.
So they got along really, really well. And so it was kind of fun, like at times where if we went like to the pool and maybe we like give our wives a break.
Yeah.
So it's like 2 dudes and 9 kids.
Yeah.
we got a lot of
going
stairs,
on here?
man.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we would take them, like we belonged to this club and we'd take them golfing and we'd take as many of them as we could.
Yeah.
And just,
load up.
Just load up.
Yeah. That's all you can say.
It was fun.
Load up.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, man. Next, let's see if I got more here. This is now, I think, a shot of you and your wife.
That's her, man. That's Beth.
Now, does she work?
Yeah, she's working right now at South Lincoln Elementary, and she just got full time, so we're thankful for that. And she has a great heart as far as just working with kids.
Mm-hmm.
And super patient. I've never met anybody, everybody says that's great things about it, but she's very, very patient, and that's why I think she's excelling at it big time. So, yeah.
And how long ago was this taken?
9 years ago.
Look at those guns on you, man.
Oh, that's when I was working out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I said, I've throughout the years gained weight, lost weight.
Yeah.
Kind of more on the losing weight right now, but I'm trying to look back into getting back into shape a little bit, so to speak.
It's harder as you get older. Like every time I've got a gym in my garage.
Yeah.
And every time I go lift, if I'm just not careful and I just lift a little too much, it could be the difference of like 35-pound dumbbells versus 45-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
Then I'll get like tendonitis.
Okay. Well, I've noticed that I've just turned 41 this past year. And I'll just say this, over the last 2 years is when I really started. Everybody talks about getting older, how terrible, the aches and pains. And I didn't really notice it until about 2 years ago. And I just started, it's more tightness and stuff that's related, like your traps in your neck, your tendons and stuff. Well, it's like next thing you know, my mind ran with it. Like you're having a heart attack, you're having this. Like, no, it's not that. It's intermuscular, but I've never, being athletic, I've never broke anything. I've had one surgery, wisdom teeth, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I haven't really experienced, I guess, pain like that and just aches and pains as far as just getting older. So I can relate to it. I've been experiencing it here lately.
Yeah, like I kind of took up running about 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
and I think back even 5 years ago, I was 42, 43, and
Yeah.
I'd run 6 miles a day, 4 or 5 times a week. Never was sore,
Sure.
and I was a little thinner.
Yeah.
And now my metabolism has slowed down. So like I still run. I ran today. I ran 4.5 miles.
That's
but
awesome.
Like I can't.
That's really good.
But unless I eat nothing,
Yeah.
then I just gain weight.
Right.
But I run the Bradford Creek Trail, which is by Heritage.
Okay.
And so like yesterday, I go out, and I felt great.
Yeah.
And I start running, and it was a slog. Like every step hurt. I was achy the whole way.
Sure.
Then today, I went, because I always like to run like right before someone comes over. Just give me a last chance to kind of think about the podcast and what's, just, and I like to run because I think I just, my brain's more active.
Sure.
Right. More creative and whatnot. And then but I didn't feel like going. I was like, no, you got to go.
Yeah.
Like forced myself to get out there, and then I felt great. Like there was no pain. There was like, it's just weird. And it's day by day.
Works. There's a lot when I did the working out thing. There's so many times where it's just like, man, I don't want to go, but once you to go, I don't know what it is. I think it's just psychological. Yeah.
All right, here's the last one.
All right, that's the team, Madison Academy, in 1999.
Let me try to zoom in on that.
So far left, if you guys can see, it's going to be Coach Jeff Keller. And then, we'll go to left to right on the top. So it's Coach Jeff Keller, and then Jonathan Fowler, Brad Bartels, Adam Bass, Cy, and then Ryan. I forget Ryan's last name. I was trying to think of it today. I want to say it's Bell, but it's not. And for whatever reason, I can't think of it. Then you had Lee, and then Coach Jay Mitchell. Both of those were assistants, obviously. And then Coach Marty Walker. Love you, Marty. And then we had two little the ball boys, the Collins twins, and I can't tell them apart even today. So you got one of the Collins twins on the left, then you had Stephen Deck, and then David Rosenblum. There I am, and one of the centerpieces. And
You're holding the sign.
Yeah, holding that. I believe that was when we won the area.
Okay,
I believe what that was. And then Corey Waddell's right next to me, Tommy Pion next to him, and then Josh Ashley, and then another Collins twin.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, that was just quick story about that. Just athletic from Madison Academy. Up to that point, we had never been to state championships or anything, but it was really cool to experience that with those guys. We made a nice little run at a state title. Something you always kind of look back on and be like proud of, I guess, so to speak. But think the world of all those guys and had a blast going. Making that journey with them.
Well, it's great that your mind can still recall the names as you look at the picture.
Yeah, man. Like I say, it's it just seems like it was almost yesterday. What I mean? Like it doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
All right, we're gonna play a game.
Here we go. Let's do it.
I've got some questions for you.
All right.
Instead of calling it the quick six, I'm just gonna anoint this the six.
The six.
However, I think I have 8 questions.
Awesome.
And I might have to wear my readers.
Uh-oh.
No, I think I can see it. All right, so first question.
Okay.
First 2 questions actually kind of deal with basketball.
All right, cool.
Talk me through one of the best games you were ever a part of where you won.
I'm going to say, I think it was I'm pretty sure it was the Final Four of the tournament. And that team, I mean, that game decided if we went to the championship, but it was a pretty neck and neck game. And, I personally, I didn't really come to life in playing basketball as far as on the court, unless there was competition, man.
Yeah.
Like for the regular season, it was always Cy, Lee, and Adam were usually the top 3 scorers. But whenever the playoffs started, I kind of came into the 15, 16 points. I excelled when, the competition, leveled up.
Sure.
But I would say it was that game. It was just a back and forth game, I mean, and we had to do everything we could to win that game. There was nothing really that probably stood out about that game, other than that we won it. But it was just the competition was, I mean, that could have gone to the other team. We were just the better team that night. It's kind of one of those games, it's like that team's got a lot of talent too. Well, if they would have missed a few shots here or they would have made a few shots there, it could have gone their way.
Yeah.
So it was a big game for us.
All right, so here's the natural follow-up question.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be basketball.
Okay.
Toughest loss.
Cortland.
Cortland.
The championship game was it still sits. It's just like a knife in your gut.
This was state championship game?
State championship. We had played Cortland the previous year, my sophomore year, in the area, and they slaughtered us, beat us real bad. And then of course we went to the state championship the following year, and then I'm not gonna say like the refs were biased, but when you shoot 59 to 9 free throws, like that's how bad it was. It was pretty bad as far as the officiating. And so I would say, that. I mean, it was a gut-wrenching loss. None of us were playing well anyways that game. We didn't, but it was just call after call, man. You couldn't, when you get those many calls and they go against you, it's hard to get a rhythm going with your teammates.
Yeah.
And that flow, in the offense. And we could never put anything together. So it just was a tough loss, But It was the experience. You can't replace the experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So I know, I don't know whether or not you're in your dream home as you would consider it now.
No, I'm not.
Okay. So let's say things are going really well with the company.
Yeah.
And you're ready to build your dream home.
Sure.
Walk me through what that floor plan, what that idea looks like.
Barn dominium.
What's that?
A barn dominium.
Barn dominium?
Yeah. Have you ever heard
No.
of it? I'm going to send you some pictures of some. It looks like a barn. You bet. What's the best way to describe that? It looks like it looks like a barn. You can do a lot of different types of barn dominiums and what they look like. A-frame houses where you see the timber inside the house actually, and then you can put sheetrock or you can do shiplap, whatever you want to do there. But as far as layout and floor plan, just something that has plenty of bedrooms, and just maybe a man cave.
But it'll look like a barn. Kind of
Yeah, it has that look of a barn, and I'll shoot you some later on. But the exterior's more. I mean, it's not the cabin look, but it's more of like it's like a shiplap almost looking house. Yeah, but right. It'll look. I mean, how whenever you see like on Yellowstone the big double doors going into the barn, like you can create a house out of that, and they look pretty I mean, they're pretty nice, man. I love them. So. My ideal would be 10. We looked at 50 acres when me and her first got married. Me and Beth first got married. We looked at that, and it was just like, man, 50 acres is a lot. You know what I mean? It's a lot to like from a land aspect to take care of it.
Sure.
And so really I've just started looking again probably over the last week. But probably about 15 acres, not more than that. I've always wanted to be able to, because I've told you I'm pretty big into deer hunting. I've always wanted to be able to walk outside if I want to go hunting and go hunt instead of, there's just so much travel time to getting there and then getting set up. It's just like, it takes a lot of effort to do it. And it's just like, man, it'd be very nice one day to be able to have that. So yeah, it's something to work towards.
Okay. All right. So this makes it even better that you were a teammate with Fowler.
Yes.
But you want a t-shirt made.
Want a t-shirt.
And it just says whatever. What is it you would put on a t-shirt?
Man, that's can
we can come back to that?
Yeah, let's come back to that. Let's circle back as they say at the White House. I'm going to circle back to that one.
Okay. So you talked a little bit earlier about imitating being Joe Montana and then being Jerry Rice at the same time, which I'm assuming is kind of that, like, throw it like this.
Yeah.
And then you run and you dive
just
for it.
Running and catching it, yeah.
So basketball wise though, if you were out in the yard at a gym somewhere and you're practicing and you're imitating that last second shot, who are you impersonating?
It's a guy named Ty Stafford.
Ty Stafford. He's and Staff's good. I've watched them all, and it's Ty's from Hazel Green, Stafford Realty, Stanley Stafford. Okay,
and Ty's Stanley's son. But shout out to Ty, man. He could ball, and he had probably one of the best shots I've ever seen.
So he was your idol.
No, I wouldn't say idol, but I used to go over to Ty's house and we would do shooting progression together.
Okay.
This sort of thing. But he was a couple years younger than I was. And so me and him never played against each other in high school, right? So about around the time when I came back from college, we would play pickup games. And so me and him would play. I was able to guard him then. So
you weren't impersonating like Jordan or Reggie Miller or anybody like that?
So impersonating, It had to be Jordan. I mean, he was more the driving, just the driving. But as far as if I saw somebody like
like modeling your game after.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Modeling the game after. But Ty, he was. There's been a lot of great athletes throughout Huntsville, but in my opinion, he got offered to play at Auburn, from what I understood, and he turned it down. He didn't play college ball.
Yeah, I should have rephrased that because
I'm sorry.
I thought of like whether it's just you're in the backyard and you're like, okay, this is it, Larry Bird for 3,
Michael Jordan,
versus actually mimicking, particularly the one that's against the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
In 1990, and I remember I was at my buddy's house and we were 12, and after we saw the game at his house, then we go out into his yard, and we mimicked that over Elo. Good. Yeah, we must have watched the replay a million times.
Sure. No, it's Jordan for me. Yeah. All day, every day, it was Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good answer. All right. So if you eventually charitable, work, philanthropy, if you ever would be able to build a house pro bono for someone, what would be that circumstance? Is there someone in mind that you would have in mind where you would want to build a house and just kind of hand the keys to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Signature was a part of that St. Jude program, and they kind of do that a little bit as far as build a house, and I believe donate it to them. I think the St. Jude program's great, for that. But I would love to be able to be a part of that. Hopefully one day we'll be able to do that,
Is there any family or individual in Huntsville that you would welcome the opportunity to do that for?
I think the door's always open.
Okay.
I recently got to experience the Melissa George there at the Havoc, and I think that's a great foundation, great cause for what they're doing. Can't speak highly of that. Thought that was really cool what they did there.
They raised $72,000, right?
$72,000. So,
and she was a baby, like it was in the neonatal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know a lot about that story, but what was the circumstance?
I believe one of in neonatal, one of the babies was lost, I believe, and then one of them made it, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you're sitting on the couch, you're watching games. I know you like the Memphis Grizzlies, Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. Probably Titans.
Titans.
Because I went up to Nashville more, the Tennessee Titans. I think I kind of alluded to it. Man, I just want to see a good game.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see two teams go at it. I don't want to see a ref call something and it not play out.
Yeah.
Like, let it play. Like, we all, you know what I mean? So.
All right, so let's do this. It's a good game. It's a Sunday night game.
Yeah.
We just had the Super Bowl. It doesn't have to be the Super Bowl because that's I think that's different level. Because you're bringing out all the food.
Yeah.
Right. But typical Sunday night, just a good matchup.
Yeah.
You're on the couch. Are you eating a pie, cookies, or cake?
Cookies.
Oh, and milk?
Yeah, chocolate chip. Double chocolate chip.
Okay.
I like double chocolate chip.
All right, now we got to go back to the question that you were struggling with.
On the shirt.
So on a shirt, Fowler approaches you. It's like, hey, man,
we got to do something.
We got to do something. It doesn't have to be work related.
Yeah.
It's like you want to make a statement, and you want to wear that statement on your chest.
We are community.
We are community.
Yeah. We are community, and hopefully, if that maybe something like that does happen, put something in the background with the zoo in it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like I say, everything that's I've learned from working with other companies, what I've been through, personally, like from a business standpoint, it's none of that, it's not about me. I'm nobody, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I have, goals and stuff like I would like to achieve. But at the same time, it's not about me, man. I want to be able to hand something down to my kids.
Yeah.
And would love for other people to be able to enjoy something that, maybe I had a hand in creating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I've noticed I really appreciate following you on social media, and particularly LinkedIn.
Yeah, me too, buddy.
I try hard.
It's mutual. I
try hard to comment when somebody is kind of requesting a comment to the extent that I can.
Yeah.
And actually I think you take it to another level where you give some very thoughtful narrative into what you're writing, and
sure.
And which I think has to make that person feel really good.
Yeah.
Or you just take it upon yourself to write up your own little experience from like the Melissa George fundraising campaign.
Yeah.
Right. On behalf of the Havoc, because it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, why not? So why not let other people know about it and support? I mean, I'm in favor of it. I support it. I didn't have anything to do with it, but hey, if I can help bring some more people in to help promote that cause, yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, my friend, it's been a pleasure having you.
Well, I can't thank you enough, man. It's our first time podcaster, coming on here, but I appreciate your time greatly.
Well, we also put you into the extreme category, right? Of the 2 hour plus.
Yeah.
I hope that you'll do many interviews for your company.
Yeah.
And or the upcoming zoo, but they'll be easy. They'll be quick sound bites.
Yeah. Hopefully we can maybe do something, and maybe hopefully over the next few months, maybe things will progress nicely, and can get back here and update everybody.
Absolutely. I've got some big plans. I'm not ready to release them yet.
Okay.
But I think I'll be having you back on very soon.
Good, man. Good.
And any final shout outs?
Jalen, I love all my kids. Jalen, I love you. She knows about your podcast, so
excellent.
And go Liberty. Sure, those girls at Liberty will appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in, my man.
Yeah, no doubt.
And again, all the best to you. It's got to be a thrill.
It is.
You got your own thing.
Yep.
You're applying lessons learned, and onward and upward.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, buddy.